Welcome back to Management 2020. The goal of this video is to talk about audience considerations that can impact the way we write. So we'll talk a little bit about audience perception, about where their focus is, how they view information, and then how we can learn about our audience in order to tailor our message in a way that they're more likely to receive it and accept it. So once you think about a time that maybe you read something, and then a time later, you read the same thing, and that document appeared to say something different, maybe something additional, or maybe even an entirely different message than you perceived it to have made the first time. This isn't uncommon when people read something or maybe interact with a message in video or audio format. When there's time between their first interaction and their second interaction, the text can appear to have a different message. And a lot of this is because we change as people. And because when we change, then we perceive messages as changing. Because our interpretations, our perceptions, our interactions with those messages are different the second time than maybe they were the first time. And so this just shows us that if we as individuals can get different meanings from a single text that does not change, just think how different people can get different meanings from the same text that does not change. When we write something or we prepare a presentation, our audience members may have different experiences with our message than what we intend and different experiences from each other. We can't always control that, but in this video, we'll talk more about ways that we can try to anticipate those differences and maybe steer our audience towards the message that we want to deliver. So audiences perceive text differently because audience members have different values and background that they bring to the context of interacting with your message. They may view words in different ways than you do. They may have different feelings about the topics that you're presenting. Sometimes even their interaction with the organization we represent or us as individuals may influence how they perceive or how they accept that message. And also their expectations. Why are they viewing this message? That will influence how they perceive it and how they accept it. Audience also can interact with messages differently depending on how they engage with the text. So we already talked about this idea of their relationship with the author or the organization that is represented as distributing the text. But also, what are their goals for reading? What are their distractions when they're reading? Are they reading this in a place where they can focus, where it's calm, where they feel like they're ready to receive the message, or are they reading it when they've just had an emotional experience and so they can't focus, or there's noisy distractions from coworkers or from family or any other kinds of distractions. So some of the things we can do to help aid with their ability to focus is think about what time we're going to share a message. If we've got an important message to share with members of our organization, we probably don't want to send that message just as we're leaving the workday, because people may open up their smartphones when they're home, receive that email, and be in the midst of preparing dinner or being driving. They're not going to be focused on our message and be prepared to receive it in the environment that we want them to. So being thoughtful about when we share a message. There's also things we can build into our message, cues and signals, to help focus their audience on the most important content in the message. We've talked about things like headings or bolded text or lists or even visuals that can help them to focus on the most important elements in the message. And again, the formatting and the presentation of the message can also help them to focus and interact with the text in a way that is more likely to help them get the meaning out of the text that we intend. Obviously, the way we organize the text can also impact how audiences receive it. Are we using an appropriate organization for the kind of information we're sharing? For example, are we trying to show a problem and then propose a solution? Are we trying to describe causes that have resulted in an effect? Are we trying to just tell a story and then providing a chronological history? Or are we trying to build an argument and providing evidence in favor of the argument and disputing any counter argument towards that argument? The placement of information, where we decide to put in order information or use visuals or tables or data to support it, that can also impact how audiences perceive the message. So that juxtaposition of information together can influence and hopefully in a positive way, get the audience closer to getting the meaning out of the message that we want. So we cannot control our audience's interpretation of a message, but we can try to anticipate their interpretation and better prepare our text in a way that they're more likely to interpret it the way we want. So we need to ask ourselves, who are our audiences? What do they already know? What do they expect to get out of this text? And what information do we need to provide them that's going to best meet what they know and what they expect? I could also be asking questions like, how can we provide and present the information they'll need so that they will interpret that text in the way that we intend? Do they have expectations about how text should be organized? Can we make reference to information that will help them make connections between existing concepts and new concepts? Can we make reference to things that will make them feel positively? Can we avoid making reference to things that will make them feel offended or defensive or angry? So tailoring the message to meet our audience is an important part of making that message successful. Another important thing to do here is learn about the audience. I can remember working at an organization where most of the sales force was of a particular gender and a particular background. And many of the people they were trying to sell the product to were people in another part of the country that lived in very different circumstances and had a very different background. And so the sales team actually had even though they were enthusiastic about the product and really wanted to present it well, they just didn't know enough about their audience to know how to highlight the product's features and how to present the message in the way that would be most meaningful to the audience. And so they had to take more time to learn about a demographic, a group of their customer base that they didn't know very much about. And some ways to do that is to observe, immerse yourself in those environments, get permission to say, hey, can I come visit your workplace? I just want to learn more about what you do. And if you do that, don't interrupt, don't get distracted, focus on that experience or schedule an interview with them and just be there and ask. And as you talk to them, you can restate or paraphrase what they're saying to make sure you're understanding it correctly, that their message to you isn't being interrupted or misguided based on your own perception. And ask questions. But ask questions to understand, not questions to convince or to control, but genuinely try to understand that other person. If we can do those things and better learn about our audience, whether that's someone outside of our company or maybe it's someone in another department that we regularly have to email or send memos to or give presentations to, and the only time we interact with them is when we send those formal messages or presentations, then that limits their ability to feel positively about our message and for us to really understand how to tailor that message to meet their needs. So finding additional opportunities to interact with the people that we communicate with in business contexts in non-formal contexts where we're providing that information to them. Instead, we're there just to observe and learn about them. We will be better prepared then for future communication with them. So as we think about the goals of business communication and how it's maybe different from other kinds of communication, we said it needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, and it needs to be audience focused. And if we don't understand our audience, we're not going to be able to tailor that message to them. So we need to recognize that audiences perceive messages in different ways, often very differently from our intention. But the more we learn about them, the more we can start to tailor the message that in a way so that they are likely to receive the message in the way that it is intended. And that will help us be more effective business communicators.